So today we'll move on to chapter 10, verses 4 and 5. Those who've done the Advaita retreats know the first Jnana Yoga sadhana pillar, which is Viveka. Without Viveka, you cannot even begin this journey. Forget about it. And now you will hear the same thing from Atmananda Krishna Menon. So let's look at what Atmananda has to say in verse 4. Verse 4. So what wrong identification has happened so far? The identification with all the vrittis that come up. They were simply knowledge waves. But what was the wrong identification that happened? I thought, I am the one experiencing this, or I am the one doing this. This was the wrong identification that keeps happening to me continuously when I'm ignorant. But when I choose that I am done with this illusory world of ignorance where there is no real pleasure, there is only the promise of pleasure, but no real pleasure. I'm done with it. Then I am ready to look within. And when I'm ready to look within, then I rise beyond this wrong identification with the help of what tool? Wise discrimination. Wise discrimination, as you've done in some of the Advaita retreats, it is Viveka. It is a skill of discernment. The Advaita path cannot even begin without this first step. At this first step, I discern that, oh, I am not this person, I am the witness of this person. The first essential discernment is, I am the witness, I am not the person. Without this, you cannot even say that you are an Advaitin. You cannot begin on the Advaita path. In my direct seeing, I have started seeing, oh, I am the witness. I am not this person that is sitting here, is speaking something, is doing an action, or is experiencing something. No. All these are individual waves. There is an individual knowledge wave of the personhood that arises and falls, an individual knowledge wave of what the person is doing arises and falls, an individual knowledge wave of what the person is experiencing that arises and falls. In ignorance, I sew these waves together and I create a story. When I start discerning, I am the witness, I am on that first step of knowledge. Now, I look away from all this story making, because this story making is lies. I start seeing, this is illusory, this is real. There is really no doership, no experiencership, and no stories of doership and experiencership. There is only knowledge. That is reality. So when my skill starts becoming better and better, I become more skillful in discernment as I keep moving up. So what is Atmananda saying? Using this viveka, this discernment, one goes beyond this wrong identification with, I am this person, see, I am doing this, I am experiencing this. One goes beyond this only with the help of Viveka. Clear? Now there are different kinds of Vivekas. The journey is longest at the Viveka level. So what are the different kinds of Vivekas? We've done some in our Advaita retreats. First is the Drigdrishya Viveka. I am the seer, I am not the person that is seen. We've already done this seer-seen Viveka, the discrimination or the discernment between the seer and the seen. Then we moved one level higher. We went to Nitya Anitya Viveka. That which is permanent and that which is impermanent. Oh, in my ignorance, I thought this person is permanently there, straight line. No, this was just a story. This was how I was fooling myself. The person was not a straight line. The person is a wave. It's only a wave of personhood that arises and falls. It's only a wave of doership that arises and falls. So it is not a straight line, means it is not nitya, it is not permanent. It is anitya, impermanent, inconstant. What is permanent? Me, that witnessing awareness space. That is permanent. Not the lower witnessing awareness space, in Atmananda's language, the higher witness. That is nitya, that is permanent. So then the discrimination has moved from Drigdrishya Viveka to a level higher where I did nitya anitya. And I become very clear. Oh, obviously that which is changing continuously cannot have any sukha or pleasure there. And even if it is there, even if my ego wants to say, no, there is pleasure in this relationship, in this money, in this house, even if the ego wants to hold on to it, it was only temporary. One little wave that arose and dissolved. So there has to be another place from where this little wave of sukha came from and into which it dissolved. That higher witnessing awareness space, that is Ananda itself. That Ananda is the one that sparks that sukha wave. Only one little wave that arises and falls. And sukha always is accompanied by its soulmate, its darling, its beloved, dukkha. Right? Sukha will never come alone. It always has the tail of dukkha with it. That also comes up like a little wave, stays for a little while and dissolves. But what do I say? I have been suffering forever. Only I suffer. Why me? No, this you would come up with something like this only if you thought dukkha is a continuous straight line. But it is not. That is what ignorance dictates, that dukkha is a straight line. When I develop the proper skill of discernment, what does truth dictate? It says no, it is only a wave. See, it comes and it goes. Dukkha also has been triggered or sparked from the same background of Ananda. So Ananda now becomes that which is beyond Sukha and Dukkha both, beyond pleasure and pain both. Ananda is not bliss really. Ananda is the absence of pleasure and the absence of pain. Absence of Sukha and absence of Dukkha. That is Ananda. A straight line. Got nothing to do with bliss the way you think bliss is. No. A straight line of peace. No ups, no downs. And finally, you come to Sat Asat Viveka. Sat Asat Viveka. Now you become very clear, oh, this is reality and this is unreality. This is truth, this is untruth. The person is not truth. The doership of the person is not truth. The experiencership of the person is not truth, and the world in which this person resides, claims to reside, that is also not truth. So that's how we climbed slowly, slowly the steps of Viveka and came finally to Sat Asat Viveka. Finally, when you come to Sat Asat Viveka, the next Viveka may or may not happen for everybody so soon, where you become very clear what is Atma and what is Anatma. Atma Anatma Viveka. Atma means recognizing, oh, everything is the same oneness, same Atma. And that which I thought is reality, these little waves, they are also Atma, but not the way I thought that they are permanent. I thought my Sukha is going to be permanent, my money is going to be permanent, my relationship is going to be permanent. From that perspective, it is Anatma. When I fool myself, oh, this is permanent, this is going to be with me forever, then I'm fooling myself. From that angle, it is Anatma. Very clear? These are the few Vivekas that we have done in our retreats. There are many more. Mithya Jnana Viveka, there are many more, which we have not really gone into depth yet. But we will go into them as we progress on this path of Atma Darshan. So we keep working on our skills. These are like little steps on the same ladder of Viveka where I keep going up, but then I slip somewhere. Now I have to recognize which vritti is it. That is my weak point that makes me slip back to personhood, that makes me slip back to doership. Clear? Now those vrittis which are my strongest attachments, now those can get dissolved with the different Viveka Samadhi techniques that we do at the retreat. Most of you have already attended an Advaita retreat, and we did the Samadhis that have been given by Adi Shankaracharya. Those are hard to teach in a remote online session. So those are best learned in person. So that is the first pillar, Viveka. It should be consistently used. You cannot say, oh, now I have a glimpse of all these Vivekas that Ekta described, I'm good. No. The vrittis, the 40 plus vrittis we did, they are like a slippery oil which is fallen on these steps of Viveka. And I keep slipping. I keep slipping. The only one who becomes liberated of Viveka totally, he drops his personhood, he drops his doership, he drops his experiencership. The one who becomes liberated of Viveka totally matures to the next step of Vairagya. Some of you attended the Vairagya retreat. You saw how hard the 100 shlokas on Vairagya are, right? It's very easy to read and recite them, but when it comes to actually implementing them, you see how your rittis just come in the way and Vairagya goes out the door. So, when Viveka matures to Vairagya, naturally, not forced, not a product of suppression, not a product of repression, When it is a natural blossoming into Vairagya, you are ready for the Vairagya level knowledge. Those who are feeling that they have already matured to that, see that you get the Vairagya Shatakam book. It's called Vairagya Drishti. It has 100 shlokas. And go through them slowly, as much as you think you can go through, and start seeing, do I see this yet in my direct seeing? Is this my direct seeing? Is this my direct seeing? On your own, if you can, fantastic. If you cannot, then from Viveka retreat, attempt to mature to Vairagya retreat. And those who feel that, yes, Vairagya, at least 35, I get out of 100, 35%. Then you are ready to move higher to the next level. The next level consists of 6 steps: Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhan. So I will teach them in sequence, but the maturity starts happening at different timings, not necessarily sequentially. So first is Shama. Shama is that natural quietness of the witness. This is a product of Viveka. If you've done a very good discernment, moment to moment, with family, with friends, with work, with your spiritual circle, everything. If in all aspects your Viveka is very sharp, a natural quietness of the witness ensues. And that natural quietness is called Shama. What is the meaning of quietness? The witness has realized, oh, that person is not me. This quiet witnessing background is me. And that automatically strengthens the dispassion towards the personhood wave, towards the doership of the person wave, and the experiencership of the person wave. Now, this cannot be forced. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to force Vairagya so that Shama happens to me. Can you do that? You'll succeed for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and there comes an attachment walking into your room and everything is gone. Right? So this cannot be forced. It's a natural quietness, means now the witness does not jump in and identify with the person when a vritti comes up. It's more still. So Shama can be even called stillness of the witness. The not jumping in, the not identifying. Is that very clear? That means the desire starts reducing naturally. Desire naturally is reducing. That is the meaning of quietness of the witness, stillness of the witness. But please don't confuse this with a regular flow-driven perception, sensation, thought, feeling that comes up. This is separate, and the witness jumping in, desiring this, is separate. Both look like thoughts. At this level, you should have developed that skill of discerning these two. Have you learned to discern desire from a regular thought driven by the flow? It's at a personal level, very personal level, where you will see some thought related to your family member come up, and you will see the witness shifts from its quietness and identifies with that, saying, I want this or I don't want this. The I want this or I don't want this has come from this direction, the witness's direction. But the thought of the family member arose automatically. Did you realize that? So these are at 2 different levels. have I developed that skill to discern between these two? Desire and a thought driven by the flow. These are separately discernible waves. Am I able to see that? That's your homework number 1. This perception, sensation, thought, feeling, which is propelled by the flow, is going to continue. I cannot say this should stop. If this stops, only then there is Vairagya. No. You cannot stop the story. You're saying now that movie that which is fully shot and produced and compressed, uploaded, running in cinemas, now the story should change in the middle. The story of this person is like that movie on the screen. It's going to continue. So the perception, sensations, thoughts and feelings that are being triggered by the flow will continue to arise. They are not going to stop. The natural quietness of the witness is another level. What we are talking about, the Shama. That is the reaction to the flow. That reaction to the flow stops. Has this become very clear? In your direct seeing, do you see that the reaction has reduced? This reaction is what I call desire. Has that reduced? If it has, you're moving in the right direction. If it has not, then you need to work a little more on your vivekas. Some viveka is weak. Some wise discrimination is weak. Is that clear? So now I will tell you a few signs how you will know, is the viveka strong enough or is it very weak? That automatically comes from the next pillar, Dhamma. Dhamma is an automatic control of the senses in response to the quietness of the witness. Means what? It does not mean that the eyes on the person will not see. They will continue to see. Yes? The knowledge wave of the perception of sight of something will arise. Means the eyes will see. The witness does not get carried away by that sight. Do you see that? So there is the first wave of the perception of sight. But this perception of sight does not multiply into waves regarding the sight. It does not become uncontrollable. When you're in ignorance, you see something, the witness jumps from its position, says, beautiful, I want to see that more, I want to see that more. Going out of control where sight is concerned. The eyes perceive, but there is an immediate standing by instead of jumping in. So there's no uncontrollable urge or more waves of sight that go out of it. Is that very clear? This was given a proper word on Buddha's path. It is called Vijnana or pure witnessing. We also did this in the longer retreat, that there is difference between simply being a witness that jumps in and becomes the person, the shuttling, and pure witnessing. In pure witnessing, the first wave arises. How many of you attended that long retreat? You know what I'm talking about. The first wave arises, but it does not multiply into more waves. That's pure witnessing, pure perceiving. Vijnana. Similarly, I just gave eyes example. It will apply to the ear. It does not mean that the ears don't hear or the knowledge wave of sound does not arise. It will arise. The first wave arises. The witness does not get carried away by that sound. They're simply perceiving, pure witnessing, vijnana, some sound. That's it. It stops at that. There is no, oh, I like this sound, I don't like this sound, oh, it's so cacophonous, oh, it's so melodious. No. Now these labels and liking, disliking, then connecting it to another sound that you've heard in the past, and then the stories, oh, it must be this. All this is cut off. That uncontrollable proliferation of thought triggered by the witness jumping in, that is cut off. That is Dhamma. Like, for example, if you like pink color, what happens the moment the video comes on? You see pink and, I like pink. I have this pink color. I have this. Oh, I've seen this also. Blah, 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 blah. Do you see this? This is uncontrollable waves of perception of sight going on and on and on and on. Then there is no Dhamma. There is no Shama also. No quietness. But if just the wave, when the video turned on, just the wave of the pink arose and disappeared. No talk. Not even the word pink came in the mind. No labeling. No chit chat. That is pure witnessing. Has it become clear? Where am I going? So you will see automatically, if you have really progressed on your Viveka has matured to Vairagya. This is the first sign of Vairagya, the first sign of dispassion, where there is no more proliferation of thought in that particular direction. There is simply perceiving, it comes and it goes. There's no interest in discussing with your own self about the pink color. There is no interest in discussing with yourself anything about any sound that you hear. Do you see that? Please apply the same to smell, to flavors, to taste, and to touch. Simply perceiving, simply witnessing, pure witnessing, vijnana. That is the meaning of quietness of the witness, such that it reflects in the senses now. Dhamma is it starts reflecting at the senses level. The homework question for you is, have I developed Dhamma or natural control of the senses? Again, this is a very loose translation. You're understanding that there is no control of the senses that you are imposing. The natural dispassion of the senses. Let's translate Dhamma that way. So it becomes very clear it's different from a control that is imposed. Natural dispassion of the senses is Dhamma. Titiksha comes up. Titiksha is spiritual toughness, spiritual strength, or better word in English language, forbearance. The witness has become naturally dispassionate and is more established in its stand. That being established at a distance, all the time, irrespective of which vritti comes up to enchant it. It doesn't move from its stand. All 40 plus vrittis attack together. It doesn't move from its stand. That is spiritual toughness. That is titiksha. Simply measured by non-reaction. Suppose a wave of compliment arises. Oh, you have a beautiful voice. Compliment wave. It is followed by a wave of pleasant feeling. This pleasant feeling has a very strong pull. It has very strong power. And that power is like magnetism, which is trying to attract the witness and make it shift from its stand. Do you see this? If the witness has become spiritually tough, it does not move from its stand. Then you can claim the Tiksha is very strong. It's totally unmoved by that pleasant feeling which followed the wonderful compliment. When the witness can withstand that strong pull, when the witness can survive that magnetic power and not budge, when the witness can brave that storm of attachment. Well, in a pleasant compliment, it's not a storm, but if it is an insult wave, then it's a storm. Even then, the witness does not budge. That is called spiritual toughness. That is Titiksha. Again, I just gave you one simple example of sound when I spoke about compliment and criticism or insult. You have to test yourself with beautiful sight, not so pretty sight, your favorite flavor, and a disagreeable taste, an ugly thought, a restless feeling, odors, agreeable and disagreeable. Test yourself with all of these and figure out where is that spiritual toughness lacking? Where's Titiksha lacking? Where do I slip? That is the next homework. Have I developed Titiksha yet? If not, which vritti is it that pulls me? Next, Jnana Yoga sadhana pillar is Uparati. Uparati, withdrawal. Withdrawal, a natural withdrawal from indulgence as well as from restraint. Natural, Not forced, not born out of suppression, not repression. A natural withdrawal happens from indulging or even from saying, I don't want to do this. When your spiritual toughness is really strong, this withdrawal is automatic. I want this indulgence, I want that indulgence, I want this. Even thoughts like this do not arise. I'm not talking of just reaction now, I'm just talking even of a thought that comes out of memory, saying, oh, I want that dark chocolate ice cream. It doesn't arise. For the longest time, you are devoid of that thought. And suddenly you realize, oh, it's been such a long time. I have not indulged in that dark chocolate ice cream. It was my weakness. It was that vritti which always made me slip. Now that has lost its strong hold on me. So I don't say anymore, oh, I want this indulgence, whatever it is. Similarly, the opposite. I don't want this. I want to restrain myself from it. Oh, I didn't have to bring this up. Oh no, this food makes me put on a lot of weight. I will not eat this. I will not eat this. I want to eat it, but I don't want to eat it. That whole restraint thing is forceful. Do you see this? Oh, I keep doing this because of my memory. I keep doing this. And now I realize, oh, Uparati is developed. For the longest time, I didn't have to even, the thought didn't come up. I don't want to eat this food because put on weight with this. The restraint thought didn't come up. So there is withdrawal from restraint as well. Did you get where I'm going with this? This is all at thought level, it's at feeling level. Now I only give you very simple examples of food items which really lure you in, and food items that you say, I'm going to restrain myself. Please apply this to other things. It could be a sight, it could be smell, it could be touch for some people. There's a lot of passion in touch. So you apply to whatever it is and check, am I tilting towards the side of gratification, or am I tilting towards the side of self-denial? Then Uparati has not happened. No tilting. A balance, a natural balance. That is natural austerity, a natural simplicity, a natural disinclination to that chocolate ice cream and that food item. Disinclination. There is no more jumping in of the witness. There is simply maintaining that toughness, that spiritual toughness, so that that stand of witnessing is very strong. Now, Uparati has a second level. If you are not ripe yet, you're very raw, then only the stand of witnessing is strong. But for somebody who's very ripe and has progressed higher, for him, there's a stand of oneness. That stand of oneness, from there he does not budge. So, that not budging, that natural withdrawal from complete indulgence and restraint, looking at that indulgence and restraint as oneness only, that is another level of Uparati. So it happens in stages. You will have to see what stage are you at. I'll give you an example. The lower level of Uparati, the attack of Maya says, I am the person called Ekta. Uparati says, no, there is only the knowledge wave of a person, and there is a label of Ekta on that person. This wave arises and it dissolves. I am not that wave. This is the lower level of Uparati. The higher level of Uparati says, oh, there is no two between that personhood, which is titled as Ekta, and me. It's all one. You see this? The lower level of Uparati and the higher level of Uparati. Clear? Maya says, this is my house. You step out of the room and see. My house, my car. Look at my car. I am the owner of this house. I am the owner of the car. Lower level Uparati says, knowledge wave. One knowledge wave of house arises and dissolves. One knowledge wave of the car arises and dissolves. Higher level Uparati doesn't even have to say this. There is a oneness with the house, with the car, with the money, with this, that, whatever the person claims to be the owner of. So you see, has withdrawal happened for you? Clear? Next is Shraddha. Shraddha is conviction. Conviction in the self means conviction in me being the pure consciousness. That is conviction. 100%, not 1%, not 2%. 100% conviction that I am pure consciousness. For some people, this conviction starts early on. For some, it takes a long time. It's okay. Whatever is your journey is your journey. Allow it. Do not force yourself. No, I'm convinced that I am the pure consciousness 100%. No, it's okay. If it's in your journey to believe that I am this person for some time, it's okay. There is no forcing here. Let it happen naturally. When it naturally blossoms, then it will never ever turn back again. There will be no slipping. If you force it, again you will slip. Again you force it, you slip. It's not really happening. That is what I call belief, or intellectually reasoning out that I am pure consciousness. Intellectual reasoning is not sufficient. Direct seeing is important. It's a question for yourself. Have I realized that I am pure consciousness in my direct seeing? Only then conviction will develop. Otherwise, it will become a belief. Earlier, you believed in a deity, you believed in some guru, external guru. Now, you're believing in the idea of consciousness. It's an idea, it's a mental idea. You have only progressed from physical to mental. You have not progressed beyond the mental. You're stuck at the mental. So there is the idea of the witness where people can get stuck. There is the idea of I am pure consciousness where people can get stuck. You have to really go within and become very clear. Am I stuck at the mental level or no? I'm clear. So conviction that I am pure consciousness, that is equal to Shraddha. Shraddha is not belief, not believing falsely in something just because Ekta says so or because Atmananda says so. No. It's not even a trust in something unknown. Shraddha is conviction born of my direct seeing. Have I developed that conviction born of direct seeing yet? That is the next homework question. And the last of these little keys, little steps is Samadhan. Samadhan, equanimity born of natural renunciation. Natural. What do I mean by natural? For example, you forcefully renounce something. No, okay, I'm not going to do this. But you keep thinking about it. So have you renounced it really? No. At the physical level, you're keeping yourself away from it. But at the mental level, you're thinking about it. Then you have not renounced. What is a natural renunciation? The thought doesn't even occur. There's a complete equanimity towards that. For example, some of you have naturally renounced the deities that you used to follow. Certain idols of certain gods, certain pictures of certain gurus, certain paths that you were following earlier. Ask yourself, has equanimity been born towards that? If there is no equanimity, if you still have those thoughts coming up and it either attracts you or it repels you, both attraction or repulsion, means there is lack of equanimity. Is this clear? What is equanimity? Having an equal vision. No attraction, no repulsion. So it's the question that you ask yourself. This that I had renounced earlier, has it completely been wiped away? That is samadhan. That is samadhan. Samadhan is very loosely translated as contentment, satisfaction. It has a higher level of meaning on the Advaita path. Dvaitam path translates it as mental contentment. No, we are going beyond the mind. This is a natural equanimity that will be born after all culminate. Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati and Shraddha. There will be a final level of equanimity where you become like a frozen lake. There is no ripple in the lake. That final equanimity of renunciation, final culmination of all Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha in Sanskrit. In English, Shama is witness quietness. Dama, the witness's mastery over the senses. Titiksha will be the spiritual toughness. Uparati, natural austerity. Shraddha will be the conviction in the self, the pure consciousness. All these mature, automatically there is samadhan, equanimity, which is born of natural letting go. Ask yourself, have I developed samadhan? Only when samadhan is like a frozen lake, that finally leads to mumukshutva. That's the last pillar, the last part, the last leg. Mumukshutva, intense longing for liberation from this personhood. I am done with this person. I am done with this person's world. Done with the waking world, done with the dream world, done with the deep sleep world. Mumukshutva. There's an intense longing to be liberated from this. No more having to go through the cycles of this. That is mumukshutva. The last line in this shloka. Become liberated and rest in peace in their true nature. Liberation and resting in peace happens only in your true nature. It can never happen in the illusion. When this becomes very clear, you have got nothing to do with the illusion of waking, dreaming and deep sleep. You're done with it. You're done with the person. Is this clear? You ask yourself, am I done with the person and the person's waking world, dream world and deep sleep world yet? Or not yet? If not, then mumukshutva has not developed. You'll see a little glimpse here and there, little degrees here and there. They come and then they get wiped out by the ritti. Again, another one comes up, gets wiped out by the ritti. No. Mumukshutva has to be strong. Strong. As strong as your desire for your dark chocolate ice cream was. That's strong. Continuously there. This is it. Then you can say, I have completed my journey from Shama all the way to Samadhan. Shama to Samadhan are 6. They're the 6 steps in the middle. They are like the 6 treasures. It's a treasure that you will collect on the way. I completed my treasure hunt of the 6 treasures, you can say. Then only mumukshutva happens. There is a sign that Atmananda gives us. What is the sign that he gives us in the next verse? verse 10.5. At once is the key. At once. So, what is he really pointing towards? He's saying that the wave of personhood keeps arising, wave of doership keeps arising, wave of experiencership keeps arising. In the waking, it keeps arising, in dream, it keeps arising. Till the time the witness believes in these, the witness is going to be bound. The moment witness becomes very clear, it's not the thought that one is consciousness, that is just a way of saying it, okay? It's that recognition, the direct seeing, when the witness has that direct seeing and that not budging from its quietness. The spiritual toughness is so strong that it does not budge from its quietness. There's complete withdrawal from the waking and the dream, from all bondage. So strongly established in consciousness, that is the strong anchor. Then it becomes freed from bondage. Yeah, that is called Bodhamatra. Simply knowledge, simply beingness. Beingness, beingness. You're constantly abiding there. Constant recognition of being the pure consciousness. This must seep in. When this seeps in, then that is the sign. That is the correct sign that you are on the path to mumukshutva. Mumukshutva has started developing. Then the final step will happen where mumukshutva will transform to moksha or liberation. Without that, it's not happening. You cannot say, first give me moksha, then I will let go of personhood, doership, experiencership. No, there is no negotiating here. Doesn't work like that. You drop this whole illusion. Be done with the illusion. I've got nothing to do with it. I'm done with it. I'm done with ekta. Therefore, you're done with your labels. I'm done with this person. Yeah, I'm done with this person's world. That mumukshutva, that trigger, will establish you in pure consciousness. That is what Atmananda means by the thought that one is pure consciousness. It's not really a thought. It's that recognition, bodhamatra, just the knowingness of beingness. Bodhamatra. So last question that you ask yourself, has my mumukshutva matured to this level to show me this sign where I constantly have the recognition that I am pure consciousness?